Well, today we're doing a hub seal on this 2294 Case International. The seal itself was about 350 bucks, and then the O-ring that goes around this flange was 100 bucks. So I'm gonna hope that this O-ring is good so I can take that other O-ring back, because that was freaking expensive. Anyway, thought I'd just show you the process here. I've never done one of these ones before. I've done lots of hub seals on tractors. I'm sure they're all the same. I've done a lot on John Deere's, 6170s, 6145s, 4255s. I've done all those, but I've never done a Case front wheel assist. But anyway, start with some Allen heads there. I'll get those off and show you what's next. Okay, so they're just 10 mil Allen heads. Make sure you tap them in there good so they don't strip out. Luckily mine didn't, but you could tell they were thinking about it. So we'll pull this thing off and go from there. Alright, we got her off of there. Here's the planetaries. They all look good. They feel good. No teeth look bad. The ring gear looks good. Sun gears look good. Or sorry, planet gears look good. Sun gear looks good. This is your sun here. Anyway, it looks like there's a snap ring there. And looks like you need a special socket, but I'm not going to use one. I am just going to use a chisel because that's what I have. There's a retainer right there. Undo those bolts by the looks of it, and then that's what holds the nut in place. So we'll do that. So a little side note, these little Milwaukee pack out kits are awesome. I got the 1/2 inch, I got a 3/8, I've got standard and metric impact sockets. I've got just a drawer system where I put just random pliers and screwdrivers and wiring stuff. I have a kit for wiring. And anyway, I'm not sponsored by Milwaukee, but they're really handy. I got a pretty small service truck, and so they just make it a lot more organized and make my life a lot easier. Don't lose tools as much either. Okay, so this is 15 millimeter. So I got the retainer off. I like to just put a mark, not that you need to necessarily, but I'll just put a mark. That's where the retainer was. And on that notch, because when I go back together, I don't have a socket, so I'm just going to be going by feel. And I'll just put it back to where it was, because the bearing didn't feel loose or nothing. It felt pretty good. So okay, I got the nut off. Sorry, I'm pretty bad with the camera, but anyway, I got the nut off. That spline there. I don't think there's a master spline, but I'll mark this as well so we know. So I'll just put a mark. Just grab my marker here. And I'm just gonna put a mark from here, where the other mark was, onto, make sure I get some good paint here, onto there, so at least we'll be where we need to be. Okay, so we got the ring gear off, and now we're at the point where I think this should pop off. Pretty sure. To double check, but anyway, I might have to pop something else loose. I don't think I have to undo the snap ring, but I might. So I'm just going to see if that hub will pop off of there, and we'll go from there. Okay, the hub popped off, no problem. That outer bearing looks so far so good. Like, you can tell there's some wear on it, but I don't think it's a problem. Like I said, it felt good. Seal was just leaking. It could have been from baler twine or number of things, but it looks good, this bearing, so that's good. That'll save me more money. Everything's getting more and more expensive in the ag world. I remember when ag parts, and I'm not even old, I'm only 29, but I remember when the ag world parts were way cheaper. Now they're right up there with mining equipment. So farming's getting expensive. I think the outer bearing's okay. At first I thought there was some damage to these marks, but it was just water or moisture or whatever. But I think the bearing will do the job. I don't know what rides here. That's where the other outer bearing rides. It looks like it kind of spun possibly somewhat. Not too bad. Like there's not a major groove or nothing, so it's fine. But here's the problem. Look at this. Here's the seal. And there's nothing left of this seal. This is the spring. The spring tension for the seal. Well, that's the spring. And it's all falling apart. You can see it's jammed in. Definitely some twine in there, old twine. But I'll replace this seal. Race looks good. I flushed it out because I was rolling a field and disking and doing some cultivating this spring, and I didn't really have time to change the seal when I really should have, so I just kept adding 80/90 into it, and so everything's actually quite clean. And I guess I did a flush to the gears, and I guess it's a good thing, but it did cost a little bit on 80/90. It's one of those things, you should just stop and fix it when it's broken, but sometimes you're trying to race the weather and just trying to get stuff done. So here's the new seal. Something I just noticed, and it might not be an issue, but we'll find out, is the outside, and it seems to me like the spring was there, which would be keeping water out, but usually these hub seals, from my experience, it's just the lip is on the inside, keeping the oil in, which it does have that, so it's almost like it's double-sided. Anyway, I'll pop this old seal out and we'll kind of take a better look, see, make sure that the old one wasn't installed wrong, because I've had that happen before where you put it in the way the old one came out and it was wrong. So always worth checking, because who's to say that the guy in there before did it right. So to get the seal out, I just threw it up on some blocks, and then I just took this pry bar and kind of went in here and just tapped her down, and she popped out. So as far as the seal goes, I think it had 2 springs on it on this one. So this is the way it was in, which would make sense. That would be the right direction. Anyway. So I think the seal is right. So I'll get the new one out and compare it to the old one, and we'll go from there. So some good practice that I like to do is I like cutting the bag nicely. That way if the seal isn't right, there's a bit of chance they'll take it back. Alright, yeah, this is kind of an interesting seal. You see it's got the spring. This is the outer side, and it's got a spring, but it's not even protected by anything. And then you got the seal spring on the inside. So this side here, where my thumb's pointing, will go in. So that'll hold the oil in. And then that side will, I guess, keep the water out. But you could definitely see how that spring would get damaged, unless there's like some kind of protection on here, which I don't really see any protector. So I wouldn't say that that is a great design. Looking at the other hub, I don't know. Hard to say, but I guess. And the other side hasn't leaked, and this is. I've had the tractor for 4 years and it's never leaked, so until now. And there's been a lot of string that's been wrapped up and stuff because it's a loaded tractor, but anyway, I'll put the new one on. I was hoping I could just tap on this down with a 2x4 because I don't really have a big pipe big enough, so I'm gonna have to use something like a race punch or something and just try to go along this edge and just be real gentle with it. Like I said, it's $350, so I don't really want to damage it. So the way I'm doing this right now, because I don't really have much with me, is I'm just going with this 2x4 around. I'm just tapping her down. Eventually it's going to bottom on that lip there, but at least it'll be pretty even all the way down. Then I can use a flat punch, like a race punch, so to tap her down, or a brass punch or something with a nice blunt end. Okay, I got it put back in. I just insetted it just a little bit. Got it down with the 2x4, and then I just used this and just went around it real gentle like. There's probably better ways to do it for sure, but this is what I had, so I made it work. Didn't damage it, so it's in there nicely. So anyway, now I'll just put it back on, make sure everything's clean. I'll put it back on there, and then I'll put the outer bearing on and the nut, and we'll go back to where it was and fill up with gear oil once we get it all back together. Alright, so I got the bearing back on, got the piece in there. Seems like it's going to be okay. I got the mark there and the mark there, so I'm just going to line it up. Like I said, I don't know if it's necessary, but I like to put things back to where it was if I don't know for sure. Okay, so I put the ring gear on, I put the nut on, and I just lined up the lines again, and then I'll be able to put the retainer on. So the retainer bolts should just line right up. I guess if I have to tweak it a little bit, I can. I'm really bad with the camera. It's not my thing, but I just know that a lot of times I like looking on YouTube to see pretty much just what the job's going to entail. I mean, I can go into anything and figure it out, but it just helps a little bit to know what you're getting into before you start the job, that's all. Okay, so I got the retainer in there. It wasn't quite the same spot because I remarked it because I kind of wore it off. So anyway, I got it lined up with those holes, the original holes that the retainer was on. And then anyway, looking at this O-ring, it actually looks really good. So I'm going to reuse this O-ring so I can get $100 back on that other O-ring. So yeah. So when you put the Planet gears back on and the outer hub piece, you want to make sure you line up those holes where the Allen bolts went with those holes. I know that's pretty obvious, but if you slip it on and they don't line up, you got to pull it back off, and it's kind of a pain. So here's something I didn't think of. I'm trying to put the it back on. There's the O-ring there. Once I get to the O-ring, it's getting airlocked, and it's not letting me push it on the rest of the way. So you just got to take this fill plug out, and we'll see if it pushes on now. Definitely don't feel the air anymore, so should go on now. Okay, so I got that back on. Then you're just going to put that at the normal fill spot, fill her up with 80-90, and then I'll see if it leaks. If it leaks, I might have to make another video. If it doesn't leak, this project is done. So I'll put oil in it, put the tire back on, and call her a day.